So I'm doing an on-the-spot interview here with Atchison Frazer from Versa Networks. How are you today?
Good, Greg. How are you doing?
Yeah, we're absolutely working here.
I know.
Just don't mind the background.
Yes.
We just happen to be at a conference which is in a venue which happens to have this amazing view.
Slumming it in southern Portugal.
We did a session earlier today, and the topic was SD-WAN and sort of like, is it the end of MPLS?
Sure.
I broadly have a view that MPLS is pretty much dead.
Right.
It's certainly in the point of view, at the very least, there's no growth. And it'll probably kill it as SD-WAN starts to replace why we wanted to slice the network.
Right.
Is that something that you can agree with, or is it more complicated than that?
I think it's a little more complicated. Certainly the growth has tailed off, but the renewals of the circuits, or at least competing circuits from various vendors, it has not eroded as fast as a lot of people had predicted. In the case of Versa Networks, of course, we're typically deployed as an overlay network that augments MPLS but also brings in commodity internet. And we work through service providers who are typically providing those MPLS circuits. So
what's in it for service providers? If I'm a telco and my job is to sell bandwidth to people, why does SD-WAN become important to them? Is it because they can start to sell the edge, so do a managed service around, I'm going to give you the edge piece? Or is it because I can start to put my SD-WAN on other people's networks and then sell it to the customer and like grab market share from other customers?
I think it's both of that. It's also the nature of the traffic that you find in the edge or the branch network. MPLS wasn't really designed to handle inbound congestion from multiple clouds, multiple sources of internet connectivity. And the types of applications that you want to run at the edge now are SaaS and next generation, putting a lot of pressure on that traditional topology, and I think that's part of the
So do service providers then make sure that the revenue is being captured? So just because people are moving away from MPLS to internet, they're still capturing that internet bandwidth?
They are, because they're typically providing ISP connectivity as well as their private or lease line. They're capturing monthly annual recurring revenue for network services, which in our case could be security, it could be branch as in Wi-Fi, and it could be SD-WAN.
So this was this SD-WAN in a box idea?
Correct.
Or branch in a box, or site in a box. So Versa Networks is not just an SD-WAN appliance, you're actually an NFV platform.
That's correct.
So customers can buy your product and then have containers into which
Essentially correct, yes.
I could put your firewall functionality or third party.
Correct.
So you've got selected partners who you can put their products into that.
Yeah.
So that's a slightly different play, because now I'm expecting a telco to actually offer me services, and you know I find this difficult to believe that your average telco can start to manage 1 million firewalls, because that's what they're going to have to do. Is your platform going to do some magic there to actually make that realistic?
Well, the magic that we do in our platform is it's one policy.
Right.
So we're the only vendor out there that provides the service provider with a management platform that has contextual visibility to both network security for UTM, Unified Threat Management, Next-Gen Firewall, Layer 4 through Layer 7, and the SD-WAN functionality.
Right. Okay.
So it's a vortex between...
So your SDN controller isn't just saying program paths, redundancy or something. You're actually saying you're actually much more service focused.
We're very services oriented. Right. It's about services at the gateway. And when you think about it, being able to preserve your franchise in MPLS, but add recurring revenue services, you have to have a play for that.
That means then if I'm an enterprise, I'm probably looking at an SD-WAN as a router replacement.
In some cases, yes.
An alternative to that is to say, I'm actually going to just go to my telco and they're going to replace my routers, sure, but they're also going to offer me firewalls, site in a box. They're going to be able to offer me Wi-Fi management, malware scanning.
Correct.
A whole bunch of services and these are things that aren't always possible today.
It's not possible because if you think about it, the legacy architecture requires at least 4, maybe 5 different hardware appliances from 5 different vendors.
Who then don't get along.
The service chaining with that and SD-WAN really doesn't work. It degrades your performance too much, so a lot of people don't even bother turning it on. In our case, the architecture was built from the ground up to service chain our own VNFs.
Yes.
So there are multiple VNFs running within our fabric that a service provider can turn up from a simple click across thousands of sites.
So you could say one rule, yes, you can access Office 365, click. every
You can set up
branch
a
of it.
policy to dictate that Office 365 is a business critical conduit or pathway, and subordinate all kinds of other traffic that may cause congestion at the last mile. Absolutely.
One of the interesting things about this from my point of view is that Versa Networks is one of the SD-WAN vendors who aren't just doing the connectivity piece, they're thinking beyond into the next phase up. And this idea of having services at the branch, centrally managed from a cloud platform,
Correct.
Is a different way. So if you're looking at the traditional SD-WAN, I've got a device, multiple paths, and I could do some application recognition. The next step up is to actually say, why don't I just run all of these apps in my boxes at the SD-WAN branch at the edge? And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. I'm Greg Farrow from the Packet Pushers. Thanks for listening. If you like this, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to hear more, get over to packetpushers.net, where we have a whole lot of podcasts where we talk, well, more or less like this. Thanks for listening.